So this is the IRB setup part 1 video. So let's just jump right to it. We go to the setup tab, IRB setup tab. This tab and this particular page, notifications, is available to all members of the IRB. The system settings and these other items under the IRB setup tab are only available to administrators and the IRB chair. So we'll get to those in a minute. The notifications page simply lists all of the notifications that Mentor can send out. Typically, many of these are sent automatically. Some of them go out, for instance, when the chair sends a notification to the PI and such. Each IRB member can decide which of these notifications they wish to receive and which they wish not to receive. So it's fairly straightforward here. You simply check the box or uncheck the box, and so Mentor only sends those notifications that are checked. So each IRB member can customize this to their own needs. Some IRB members may not wish to have any notifications, and that's their choice, and they can set it up quite easily. System settings. So this is a fairly large piece of the setup system, and this is where we configure the IRB to really sort of make it work for each particular institution. So there's a lot of different switches and data here. All of this is editable by simply clicking the Change System IRB Settings, and so here's the form with the switches. So I'm going to go through these in a little bit of detail, not as much as we might, but at least in some detail. And so let's just get started. So display next meeting deadline. Yes, what that does is display the meeting deadline. If you create a meeting, you can set a deadline for submission of protocols, and if you set this to yes, Mentor displays that meeting deadline on the create new protocol form to your PIs, so they know exactly whether they're submitting and when the next IRB meeting will be that will review their protocol. This is a list of acceptable file types. You can limit file uploads to just these types. You can easily delete one of these types. So if you don't want an MHT, you can just click the X and it removes it. If you want to receive, say, PPT, just click Add, and that's an acceptable file type now. So files that don't have these types cannot be uploaded. So this allows you to control the system, make sure that you're getting file types that you can read and your members can read. Disable notifications allows you to turn all notifications off. This is useful when when you start uploading past protocols, if that's what you want to do. And this way, the notifications that would normally be sent out when a new protocol was received can be turned off. So this is a good way to get the system set up initially. Enable research coordinators. Mentor has a function that allows you to define, or a PI to define research coordinators. And this is more typical in the biomedical context where you've got investigators with a large number of protocols. They may want to designate one or more persons who are responsible for their protocols, can submit those protocols on their behalf. So then both the research coordinator and the PI have access to the PI view for those protocols. Enable student submission for student levels. What this does is if you choose to have students submit protocols, you can use codes out of your student information system that designate different levels of students. So at Fairfield University, 02 and 03 are the graduate students. So we allow graduate students to submit protocols directly to the IRB, whereas we don't allow the undergraduates who are 01s. You may have different codes at your institution, and obviously if you're going to allow students to use the IRB system, we would have to have that student enrollment data. But these codes are pulled out of a particular field in the import definitions, and so that allows you to control which students can submit to the IRB. Require faculty, staff, PI for student protocols. If it's your practice to have a faculty or staff PI, say yes, and this requires that the students name a faculty or staff member as the responsible PI for that protocol. That faculty or staff member who's been named by the student is then required to go in, review the protocol, and actually submit their approval, and that way you can be sure on the IRB that you've got a faculty staff member who's fully apprised and aware of the protocol and is willing to take responsibility for it. Some IRBs or institutions require the department chair's approval. If that's the case, Mentor knows who the chair of the department is in its department rosters, and if this is set to yes, Mentor will send an email to that chair when the protocol is submitted, and they can go in, review the protocol, and provide their approval. And finally, use date of completion. What this does is, in some cases, you may have a lot of back and forth with the investigator of a protocol, and rather than allowing that protocol to appear on the agenda, if you use date of completion, Mentor won't display that protocol on a meeting agenda until a date of completion has been set by the IRB chair or administrator. So this allows you to keep track of protocols that are still sort of in the negotiation process with the investigator and distinguish those from protocols that are ready to be reviewed. Protocol submission requirements, request informed consent form. Yes, some IRBs prefer to have that included in the protocol document itself. So this simply adds an item to the protocol to create new protocol form that requests the consent form. You can request a conflict of interest form. Again, that's just another file upload item on the create new protocol form. Request funding source, request study sponsor, request sponsor contact information, and so on. So these are all options that simply put form fields onto the create new protocol form. You can also request an abstract description of the protocol right on the create new protocol form, and if you are requesting an abstract, you can add some instructions here for the PIs to follow in creating that abstract. Now, I'll talk a little bit later about how the surveys get created, but the basic idea is that the IRB can generate a set of surveys that they would then ask the PIs to use. These could be checklists. They could be a branching survey to ask the PIs about their protocol. Basically, this allows you to ask the PIs any question that you want to collect information from the PIs. You can see here that we can deploy these surveys in specific contexts, if it's an exempt protocol, if it's a QI protocol, and so forth. So each of the different kinds of protocols can each have their own survey. There's also the pre-protocol survey that would be the investigator would complete that survey and then be sent to the create new protocol form. And then you can decide whether that pre-protocol survey is optional or required. So I'll talk a bit later in the next video about how to create these surveys, but that's roughly what these functions are, and so you can deploy them in a variety of places. I'm going to come back in the next video to talk about continuing reviews, additional reporting, and so on. So I'm just going to stop this one to cut it off and start up a fresh one.